Hey, everybody, welcome to tonight's episode of The Recovery Scene. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tonight, I have Andrea Canello. Did I say it right?
Yes,
Is
yes.
it Canello or Canelo?
It's Canelo.
Canello. Okay, so I did get it right. All right, so Andrea, coming from alcoholic parents, was, as she puts it, the poster child for DARE. She was never going to use, but sometimes it turns out peer pressure is a little bit stronger than the will, of a teenage kid. But as always, I am going to no, you're over here. No, you're over here. The Zoom always messes me up. She's over here, you guys. She's that way. So I'm going to let Andrea take over because you want to hear her, not me. And yeah, so no, and just take it away, girl. Go.
Well, thank you so much, Leslie. I know you as Mama K,
right?
Because when I first came across you, you were like Mama K, and I have followed you for a little over a month now, and I just love what you're doing here. I think that it's so important to recover out loud, which wasn't my philosophy when I first started my recovery journey because I was afraid, right? So I love this.
We all were at first. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's the stigma.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It holds you back. And this is breaking the chains, and it's a movement, and it's a much needed movement, and I love it. So, my name is Andrea Canello. I'm coming to you live with Leslie here, a little outside of Pittsburgh. I say that, but I'm a little closer to Youngstown, Ohio, so I could shout out two places. But yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it was like, how I got into recovery, and what it's like now. So Leslie told you a little bit. I had alcoholic parents. My dad is actually a schizophrenic and an alcoholic, but he's also a workaholic. And I get that from him, and I'm blessed to have that. So there's some things that I've learned that are blessings to me. Like, my addiction isn't a bad thing. I'm just addicted to different things now, and it's
right. We just need to be addicted to the right things.
Right? It takes falling and bumping on our head about 7,000 times to figure it out. But hey, but I grew up in a small town. Everybody knew everybody. My grandparents lived there, and on and on and on. So I was the oldest of three children. So I always had that taking care of everybody instinct in me. My parents were both alcoholic. I mean, there were times where I was the kid that sat on the school bus and just wanted my mom to not be drunk when I got home. And it's so powerful to talk about that now, because I know exactly what I don't want to be for my children, because those feelings. But so they were both alcoholic. They were both, my mom sold pot. I remember, I have a picture when I was a kid. There was a giant garbage bag full of pot in our this is real life, in our kitchen, in our weed guy or whatever. I had no idea. I was 5. I was as tall as the bag, and my mom took a picture of it. But
that's going in the scrapbook.
Right? So my parents were together till I was about 13 years old. It was always chaotic. My dad had mental health issues, but he was always a worker. He worked at the railroad. We lived in a railroad town. My whole family worked at the railroad, so he had a really good paying job. My mom had every reason to leave, but couldn't leave him because he was stable, and I truly believe they love each other, but you add the chemicals in. That's not my story, that's theirs, but they impacted 3 children along this journey, right? So at 13, my mom left my dad and met a guy that was a crackhead. So my mom turned into a crackhead at she was 30 years old at the time. And that broke me. It made me feel some kind of way. I remember crying. I remember cussing my mom out. I mean, 13-year-old girl, you're full of emotions and all that
Right.
anyway. And it was rough. Like I just remember breaking down, and I always was involved. I always wanted more. I always craved social interaction. I was involved in everything. I mean, I was a terrible at sports, but I played them all. I
Mhm.
was a cheerleader. I was the loudest, like I just always craved like being a part of, right? I think that that's the missing link. It took me years in recovery to find that out, but
Mhm.
my clean date is 8/1/15. So it's been on February 1st. It'll be 5.5 years. Um,
Oh, wow, you're the second person with almost the same birthday as me. It will be 6 years for me on February the 7th.
that's cool. That's cool. So I'll celebrate a half and you'll celebrate I celebrate mine in August, but my
Yeah,
half, my little half there. But
that's awesome. 5 years is fantastic. That is fantastic.
it's crazy. Like I didn't think I would get a month.
Right.
So it's amazing. It's a miracle. It's 100% a miracle. So I was like she said, I was the poster kid for do not do drugs, like drug abuse resistance education. They came with the cop car with the red lettering. Like I was that. And like I would get on my mom, and it was rough. Like we could talk for hours about some of the things that happened when I was a child, because my mom would have the dealer there on the first of the month and we wouldn't have any food, and then I'd have to go in front of my like cheerleader friends and pretend like everything's okay. Years years upon years of pretending it and faking it, and I kept going. And then next thing you know, my mom would like say things to me as a teen, young adult, like you're the mom, because I always took the lead. I had nobody to show me, right?
Right.
um
You had to grow up quick.
yeah. And you know what, I look at that as almost a blessing. Like
Mhm.
it was part of my plan, so I don't regret that now. I used to use it as an excuse all of the time for any time I acted out, or whatever it was, if I was failing college that week, or I'd just use that as an excuse. I know that that's not the way to live today, but it was very convenient to use then, right?
Mhm.
We are manipulative beings when we're in that addict mentality, and I think the quicker we break free from that, um, it helps us, that
Absolutely.
growing. So, um, anyway, I wanted to be a nurse because I wanted to make money. I needed to have money, because I actually quit playing sports in high school because I needed money. I didn't have school clothes. All the kids were wearing all this stuff. I had, rags or whatever. And like, so I quit all the school stuff. I was really money motivated. I needed to make an income because my parents obviously weren't doing the right thing with their money. And I got a nurse aide job. It was pretty good money. I went to college. I actually had a hiccup where I was in an abusive relationship. I told myself I would never get into abusive relationship, and here I was. I found a guy, and he was very abusive to me. It was hard, because I craved to be loved so much, and he loved me I thought unconditionally at
Mhm.
the time. You're like, I was 15, he was 18. We were together for almost 4 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was it. I left the state for him, like I was literally independently living for a while. My mom was always there in the background. I could always go back, but I kind of did my own thing, and managed to graduate high school. I managed to work full time. So, you know, I dabbled in drugs with him, but I didn't do them
Mhm.
all the time. He was definitely an addict. I didn't understand that, I just thought people were like me at that time. They could stop when they wanted to. I couldn't understand why people wouldn't stop doing, like, I could do this and then I won't do it. My off switch eventually broke, but at that time it hadn't broken
I was
yet.
one of those that had an off switch at first too. Yep. Yep. And then it just snapped. I get fizzed out. I don't know.
It
Mhm.
tricks you, man. It tricks you because, you think you're good. And so that relationship ended, and I met the guy that I'm with now. I'm 37 years old, and I was 19 when I met him. And I thought, like, this is the guy, like, and I love him. I still love him today. He saved my life. Like, if God put him in my life for a reason, because
Mhm.
if it wasn't for him, I would not be where I'm at today at all. So that's like my biggest blessing is like in life is him. I actually called him my higher power. I know that's a little bizarre, but you know how you like, you follow that in early recovery. You have to look to something,
Yep.
whether it's the court systems or whatever to keep
I
you.
always told people at the beginning, your higher power is anything that gets you out of your head.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter exactly the court system, your kids, that's only a temporary fix. Eventually, you have to find what your real reason is. And, but yeah, it's anything that gets you out of your head. Step 2. I love step 2.
It was like, it always went to him. Like, it was always like, that he was that tangible person I could lean on. Now it's more spiritual because, we're only human. You can't depend on another human that much. You know what I like?
Mhm.
So, now I have a really great relationship, spiritual relationship with a God of my understanding. And, it's beautiful. It's crazy for me to even say that, but, it is, it's amazing. But, so I met him and I knew, like, I always had like this just target, I'm like, I'm going to get married. I'm going to go to nursing school. I'm going to do all these things, right? I'm going to have kids. I'm going to plan everything. We're going to do everything, um, and I slowly started checking those boxes and checking those boxes. And then, all the way through nursing school, I abused, you know, I don't know. I don't really want to get into what I sped my way through. Let's just say, like, I abused the heck out of some Adderall. I literally was popping those things like Tic Tacs, and it was, you know, it got out of control. I think I gave myself ADHD, if you want to know the truth, really.
Right? Somebody that doesn't have ADHD, it's gonna, yeah, I have ADHD, but it's untreated because I cannot take Adderall because I want to take 10.
Yeah.
So,
One
yeah.
is never ever enough, and never. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was actually that was like a hard one for me. It's, there are still days I wake up and I'm like, damn, I wish I had more energy, like this coffee ain't cutting it. These freaking whatever, it ain't cutting it, whatever. But yeah, that was like my go-to. And it was like, okay, whatever. My friend, one of my best friends in nursing school, we got through together. She was prescribed it. I'm like, this is cool. We would stay up. I'd pass nursing school. Things would be good. I also got into harder things. I was like smoking crack, and like, it was bad. It was like, that's what really took me down. And I think that this is uncomfortable. I haven't did a lead in so long since COVID, but um I would this is so jacked up, guys. Like, I would bond with my mother and smoke crack. Like,
That makes absolute sense.
I mean,
That makes absolute sense. Hmm.
like, I mean, I liked it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I did like it. I didn't like the icky feeling after, to the point where, like, I craved to do it more, but
Right.
I craved the attention of my mother, and it's that sick.
It was a way to connect.
Yes.
Hmm.
And, you know, we would connect, like, and it was bad. Like, it spiraled out of control because it was an obsession like no other for me. Like, I would just, and I wasn't like the person that could do like go for weeks and weeks, and then sleep for a little bit, lose like 500 pounds, and then go back into, no, I would like go to work. I'd work my shifts, the whole time, it's talking to me. It's talking to me. I'd get my money, get everything, get it all together, plan it out. My husband couldn't know. My husband never did drugs. Okay. That's like one thing. And then I would meet up with my mom, blow all my money, or like, but it was like, and it's weird to say this, but it was like responsible because I still paid all my bills and I still did all the things because that
Functional. Mhm.
I was 100% functioning. Um, Alcohol was never my thing, but I worked at a bar and I would get drunk occasionally, and it always ended bad. It always ended bad. Always. My brother is younger than me, and he tells me all kinds of stories. I'm sure I blacked out multiple times, but
I
I'm
used to
grateful
make
for
the
the drugs.
joke because I would black out and my friends would tell me embarrassing, horrible things that I did. And my running joke was, "Huh, so glad I wasn't there for that."
I know.
That
Crazy.
was my running joke. Now it's funny because I'm in recovery and I'll say things like, huh, glad I wasn't there for that. And all my friends are, oh, but before it was like, really? But yeah, no, I get it.
It's so crazy. Like, I'm grateful for the drugs because they got me in the rooms faster. So yeah, but I don't know. So that I bonded with my mom, and then I got married. Um, Ended up, we lived in my grandfather's house. We ended up buying my grandfather's house. We were fixing that up, and I got pregnant. I went to nursing school. I became a nurse. I'm like talking to you like my whole life, but I'm 37. I feel like I've lived multiple lives at this point, but
Right?
I went to nursing school, and like I said, I did had to roll the whole way through nursing school. I really focused. I really wanted it. I really knew that it was my ticket to a better life. But drugs in between made my life unmanageable. You know what I mean? Like, I skimmed by, I got the degree. I got the job. I was laser focused. I wanted a labor and delivery job at a small town hospital, and guess what? I got it. And guess what? I destroyed it too. But at first I worked in a small town ICU. My friends were the pothead nurses. We flock, man. We find each other. It's like a, we ping each other and we're like, yep, they're my people, and I'm still friends with them today. And they actually saw what happened to me because I had to go through a professional group and I had to pee test and all this stuff for like 3 years. So they actually took it seriously, and they were older than me. But yeah, so I mean, really wasn't hard. I really wasn't into like the harder stuff because I was basically just smoking pot, hanging out, and like kind of getting my life together. And I got pregnant and everything like stopped. I didn't do anything. I knew what I didn't want. I knew exactly what my mom did to us. And in the middle of all this, I actually took my brother in because he was living in a really bad situation. I'm so proud of my brother today. He is an awesome dad. He is so awesome, but he lived with us for a while, which challenged my marriage. I'm grateful that he have some sort of, like, we gave him some sort of stability through it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm crazy, we still talk. He knows I'm crazy, but whatever. But in the middle of all this going on, he was there too, my little brother. He's 7 years younger than me. And I don't even know where I was going with that. But so I knew that I didn't want for my kids. I knew that I didn't want to like that. I knew I definitely wasn't going to use anything while I was pregnant. And I had my baby, and he was perfect, and he was gorgeous, and he's 9 today. But he was like, I mean, it was great. And my mom passed away, but she was at the end of her life. I wouldn't say she didn't know she was at the end of her life. I didn't know she was at the end of her life, but she slowed down a lot. She wasn't doing as much as she used to do. She found a guy, they were pretty stable. They still used together. I knew she was crazy, but that didn't impact my life at that point. And she was there for me. I had questions. I was a new mom. I needed my mom.
Right.
She was there for me. So I was grateful that I was, I had that. But to that point in my life, I had no healthy coping mechanisms at all. And here I am with this baby. And I had severe anxiety because my mom had a baby. Her first child died of SIDS, and he was 6 weeks old. And then his mom had a baby boy when, and he was stillborn at like 36 weeks or something. So my brain, I was convinced, this is how crazy I am. I was convinced that my son didn't have an arm. And because I worked in labor and delivery, I was delivering these babies, and there was a baby that came. I actually had one of my coworkers give me, it was a doctor. I worked at West Penn Hospital, and there was a residency program. So we worked hand in hand with the doctors. Mm-hmm. And I had her scan my belly. I had my regular doctor give me another anatomy scan. I was obsessive. Because it's crazy. Like, I was that anxious about my kid. I was like, I don't want nothing to be wrong with him. And I think that's not that I think that it is. I know it's normal. Other moms feel that way. Other moms want their kids to be okay. And I think that, I think for me, I had no idea how to deal with the energy. If my doctor at that point in my life would have said, here's some mom support groups, like I failed at breastfeeding, and I felt like I was the worst person on the planet. Like, it's just crazy, and being a labor and delivery nurse, we pushed the breastfeeding, and it's just those little things in life that you don't think are affecting people. They're affecting people. So just be kind to people, because right. It's crazy. So I went to my doctor.
The obsessive personality too.
Yeah.
We're going to obsess about something, whether it's babies or drugs, or like right now I have a serious problem with kids' cereal.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking of ways and means to get more. But yeah, so
I'm like the same. Last night I like crawled out of bed, and I'm like eating the Rice Krispies. I'm like, I'm not doing this tonight. We're not doing this. And here I am. Yes, we're doing this tonight.
Crazy. Oh God. So anyway, okay, we fail at breastfeeding.
Okay, so I actually went to my doctor. I remember crying in the shower. I would call work and say, can you call me off? Because they'd mark nurses off if they didn't have a lot of patients. And I remember they needed me to come in there for 4 hours, and I cried in the shower. My husband was like, what is wrong with you? And I just had this unrealistic fear. I was leaving him. I wasn't ever going to see him again. It was the most bizarre feelings I'd ever felt in my whole entire life. It was like that attachment with your baby, and it's weird. But I went to my doctor. He's like, this is okay. This is normal. I love my doctor. And he was like, here's some Xanax, and here's some Celexa, which I hated. And here I am, I'm manipulative. I convinced my doctor. I had a regular delivery, and I know that regular deliveries never go home with Percocet. Guess who went home with Percocet? Hello, this girl. You know what I mean? Like, we're so manipulative, and like, so the Xanax I hated, because it just put me to sleep, and mm-hmm. I wanted to be awake and watching my baby breathe. And the Celexa was so weird for me. I just had really bad side effects from it. I didn't like it at all, the way so I weaned myself off of that without telling my doctor, of course. And then he was like, well, you told me, I self-medicated for so long. And then I started taking the pain pills, and that was like the reintroduction of like, here's the game, let's play, and it just spiraled out of control. Like, I basically lived in a drug house growing up. I tried multiple drugs, so I wasn't afraid of it. It was really familiar for me. Look, hindsight's 2020, right? So looking back, I know that's why. Like, some people were like, there's this big epiphany, and they're like, this happened to me, and this is why I used. For me, it was so familiar. The people that I love the most on this planet, my mother and my father, used the hardest drugs imaginable when they're alive. So it was familiar to me. And if it helped my symptom, why not take it?
Like, really normalized.
So that was it. It snowballed. It started with Percocet, and then, and then of course, like, I come from the crazy family tree. My aunt was an addict. So like, her boyfriend was selling me pills, and it was so easy for me to get. It is so easy for anybody to get. If you're seeking it, you will find it, I promise you. And one thing led to another, and fast forward a couple years, I'm like shooting dope. I kids I went to high school with, they were a couple years younger than me, they were the dope dealers. And my story gets a little interesting here because
Here it gets interesting.
I know.
Wait.
So in the middle of all of this, my husband has many, he's one of those, I'm going to try this job. I don't like it. I'm going to try this job. I don't like it. He's the hardest worker I've ever met, but if he doesn't like something, he's getting into something else. He was a contractor, didn't like it. Lawn care. He actually, now we own a landscaping business. He became a police officer. So,
Good.
yeah. So I was living with the policeman, and he was the police officer in our town. That's all he really did. He ended up not liking it and getting out of it, and for the money he was making, it wasn't really worth it. But yeah, so one of the biggest dealers in our town, you know, they were following him, and they had all these text messages from me, little old me, you know, like, it's so many layers of jacked upness that we get ourselves into, and we think we're smart. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you think you're smart, you're not. Like, if you think you're smarter than the police, you're not. So, like, I'm just telling you, like,
I know. It's so true. I mean, there are going to be people listening to this going, oh, whatever. No, just wait.
yep. Mm-hmm.
We all think we're so brilliant, and then we're pulling one over. Listen to me. People know you're using. People know you're drinking, whether you think they do or not, whether they want to admit it or not. Mm-hmm. On some level, everybody knows. Just put that out there right now.
Oh yeah, everybody knows if you think you're so smart and sneaky, but you're falling asleep on the couch, you know, like, and that was a big thing for me too. Like, it was really refreshing to hear my friends say, yeah, Gina was telling me, that's my husband's name. He was telling me, like, you know, this is what she does. Like, I went to go see my best friend in the whole wide world. She had a baby, and I was like nodding out on her couch. And he, you know, she shared that with me. She was like, you know, we had a conversation that day. Like, he was like, she does this all the time, you know? So like, they know, they don't want to admit it to themselves. They don't want to bring it up. They don't want the confrontation. I'm an huge asshole when I'm using. So I'm going to fight you tooth and nail and say I'm not, because that's how I am. That's how I am when I'm using. I don't like her. I don't like her at all. She's bad. She's ugly. But yeah, so it got really bad. I got a DUI in, my mom passed away in November, and she knew, she saw it. She had conversations with me, was like, don't do this, Andrea. Like, I would go upstairs, do what I needed to do, you know, come back down. And she'd say, why do you keep leaving? I know what you're doing up there. What if you die up there? What if you don't come back down on here? You know, I had lost my job as a labor and delivery nurse at a small town hospital. I didn't get turned into the program yet at that point. But I got fired. I tried to get my job back. I'm like, I'm getting my job back. Yeah, okay.
Did you get fired because of a drug test, or what happened?
I got fired for poor attendance and not clocking in and clocking out. But hindsight's 2020, right? And looking back, they were like, do you want to go to our, you know, such and such program, which was like the work program to like go to rehab kind of thing. And I was like insulted. Like, what do you mean? I'm good, you know? Like, so yeah, it's crazy. But I got my mom passed away, and she would say, like, you have a good life, you have a good husband, you know, you need to quit complaining. She would tell me, like, you need to take your Suboxone, because I was on Suboxone at that point. You know, we try to trade one for the other. Mm-hmm. It was, and I hated it. I hated every minute of that. I just did that because I didn't want to be sick, and I didn't want to tell everybody, you know, that I'm this big cup, you know. But so she passed away. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I lost so much weight. I was sick. And, my old friend came to comfort me. I called the dealer, and it's just like snowballed again. And then in February, I started working at a nursing home. I was a nursing supervisor. Everything was good. It was actually a nursing home that I was a nurse aide years previous. So I knew a lot of the people that worked there. It's like coming home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, I got back on the horse. I got the job. Everything's good. And then I got my first DUI. So, and I was trying to detox off of dope. And so I took some Ativan. From like the patient had already passed away, but I was the one that got to dispose of the narcotics.
Oh, good.
So I was trying to detox myself, and I had all the answers, and the next thing you know, I ended up having like a syringe it wasn't like a regular syringe, it was like it didn't have a needle on it, it was like and so I was like, I don't even remember any of this because like benzos were never my thing. And so I was completely out of it. And I remember telling the police officer, or my husband remembers me telling the police officer that I was wasting that medication or something. He was like, you kept mumbling. And then I guess the next day I drove my car and stumbled across, I totaled that car, but I drove another car, my husband's car, to pay the sewage bill, and a family member saw me there. I don't remember any of this. I really overdosed myself on that time around, but because I wasn't familiar with, my body wasn't familiar with that kind of drug, but I was detoxing. Right. So first DUI, I didn't go to jail, just wrecked the car, went home. And then so I was like, I'm going to clean my life up. I got to clean my life up because that syringe was on me. The police officer called my job. I lost that job. So I lost that job. Now I'm unemployable, like what the heck's happening? So I went to this other place to get a job before like a police report would go in, blah, 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 all this stuff, we're like, whatever. We think we're cunning and baffling, right, but really. Right. So I got the other job, secured that. And then my dog died. Like right after my mom died. And I always share that because it was like a double hit. Like I felt right. Helpless. It was terrible. It was, and once I got the job and I started excelling, I got a promotion at the job, I was like, well, let's celebrate, and then like, it just was it was like the end of my run. And I don't know. It was bad. My relationship was bad. Everything was bad. And then I decided that I was going to quit in July when we went on this vacation. So I bought a bunch of stuff, did it the whole way down. We drove down, got some stuff to detox myself while I was at the beach, like Suboxone and stuff. And then I came home. It was 2 days. I was calling them like, I'm ready, Right. And, it wasn't even a couple days later. It was like actually a week from the day I came back from vacation. We went to Outer Banks, big family thing, his whole family. I mean, it's crazy looking back, like how embarrassing was that? I didn't care. So it was a week later and I did a controlled buy. I got set up. Uh-oh. My son was in the car and they said if my son wasn't in the car that I would have been like, they would have had guns out, get on the ground. It was at a local gas station. It was Friday. I was in scrubs. I was ready to party for the weekend. I had everything I needed. Me and my son walked into a little gas station. We got 2 grape sodas and 2 oat milk cream pies. And I walked out and I was arrested. I had to call my husband's family to get my kid. My husband ended up showing up. He had been cutting grass all day. I'm so glad I was in the cop car because I thought he was going to kill me. And then I sat in jail for 10 days. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. It literally saved my life because I needed that abruptness. Like I listened to a lead before and she couldn't have said it more perfect. Like, they were angels dressed up in blue suits that handcuffed me and took me to jail. Like those were my angels, like literally. So yeah, that was like the start of my recovery. And I got into a nursing program. I actually got out of jail and had to lose. I am going to share this because I think a lot of people go through this. I got out of jail and had to lose my regular health benefits because I was fired from my job. I had to lose my regular health benefits so I could get welfare benefits to get into rehab. How about that one? And they didn't really believe me at the bail office or whatever because they, you know, they've heard every lie. But I'm like, no, for real. So I had to go through all of that to, you know, get PED test and all that stuff. But eventually 30 days after, so I had almost 40 days when I got into rehab. It was like 32 days or something. But I white knuckled it. It was crazy for like 5 days or something. And my husband was taking my kid from me, facing divorce. He actually let me come back to the house. So I knew like there was a chance, like I could do this. I don't have to give up my family. I have to do this for them.
Right.
And I got in and I went, you know, I flocked right to the people that wanted it. Like I didn't want, at that time I was 32 and I wanted to be around people that wanted it. I didn't want to, I would see these, there would be like 40 and 50 and 60-year-old people at, I'm on here, babe, 40 and 50 and 60-year-old people at rehab. And I'd be like, no, I can't do this. Like I cannot, this was my first rehab. I had no idea how to stay clean. I had no idea about the big book of AA. I had no idea about Narcotics Anonymous. So like, it was like I was back in college. I like treated it like I was in college. Like I wanted to soak it up like a sponge and those leads would get up there and I would get so afraid because they'd be like, I was clean for 5 years and then I relapsed. And I'd be like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, how does that happen? But, yeah, it scared me. I was like, I'm going to go through all this and then relapse in 5 years. Like it was crazy. I think so far ahead and what this taught me, what me falling, and it was the biggest blessing was to take it one day at a time, one moment at a time. I was broke for the first time in my adult life. I had no money. Like I had, you know, I have $1. Do I go buy a double cheeseburger or do I put it in to the NA bowl that comes around, you know, at the beginning of the meeting?
Right.
And it was just so humbling. I lost my nursing license. I had to get in a program, pee twice a month, document all these meetings. Plus I'm still having the court system. But all of that had to happen for me. Cause like I said, like my husband was my higher power. This court system was my higher power. Couldn't drive. I actually took the bus to work. I was like, you know, I finally got a nursing job again. I still am there right now. So it's really awesome. People are like, you need a different job. I'm like, no, I don't. I love it there. Like they gave me my chance. You know, I make really good money, you know, like I got all of it back, but now I have options. I put myself in this box for so long and I was like, I'm a nurse. I'm going to do this and this and this. This blessing of recovery has opened my mind. It made me stop. It made me quiet all of the stuff that Andrea thought was right. And God said, here, slow down. I got this other thing coming for you. Wait. And I sat home. I cleaned the house, which I hate to do. I started cooking dinner every day, which I hated to do. You know, like people say like clean up your side of the street or whatever, or give back, acts of service, you know? And I was like, well, I need to do a home group and all this stuff. Well, for me, I did get a home group. I did get a sponsor. My sponsor celebrated 30 years. She is like the queen of NA. I love her. We need to get her on the show. She's
a master. Yeah, we do.
But yeah, she's
recovery queen right there.
Yes. We have the same birthday, December 4th. I heard her at a Halloween nighttime meeting. My husband thought I was going to use because I was with a friend that I had used with, and I went to go see her. It was candlelight meeting, Halloween party, and she was like tough. And I need somebody tough. I need somebody tough, and she was tough. That's not everybody's thing. Some people don't like to have a tough sponsor, but I needed that. But yeah. So I was sitting at home. I was, acts of service for my family for the first time. I was like, it's a deal to like put dinner on the table. Like, people discount that kind of stuff. And in early recovery, I realized like that is fulfilling, like not now, I hate it, but in early recovery, when it's all you have to do, like it's huge to like give back to your family. And
if you're dead and in early recovery, you feel like a champ.
Yes.
And sometimes I still do, depending on the day. Feel like I have pants on and my bed is made.
I know.
Had a good day.
One lady, the one guy said, he goes like, it's a miracle that I can make a Pop-Tart today. Like we would laugh. Like that was like our laughing joke for a while. Like, cause I'm like, I make eggs and bacon. And, I was like, it was 3 months in and he's like, that's like a miracle. Like I made Pop-Tarts the whole first year. Like, so we had a running joke for a little bit. I used to go to AA meetings too a lot. A lot of old timers, and I like enjoyed it. I enjoyed the AA atmosphere. I love the NA atmosphere, but I felt like I had so much FOMO around the young ones. And I was like, I want to hang out with them. They're so cool, But I realized, that wasn't my path. It wasn't my path to make a bunch of friends in NA, even though it's a great thing to do. But yeah, it's been amazing. Like I sat home, my husband was, wanting to get out of policing. He was working 3 jobs at the time. He was working as a bellman at a hotel, and he was cutting grass. And I said, babe, we should do this. You should go all in on this grass cutting thing. And that was like the start of it. And like, now he like works for himself. I do all of his billing. I do, the whole second year, like probably 6 months in, I was like a weed whacking. I was his like helper. I was cutting lawns and working 70 hours a week. It felt so freeing. And I wasn't like ashamed of it because it was something I was working towards. And I lost so much weight. I felt so good about myself. Like it was just like, it just made me think outside of the box even more. It made it like, that's why I say when God hand delivered this to me, he was like, you don't have, like, why are you checking all these boxes? Like, you aren't even living life here, lady. Like, slow down. And like, that's what we've been doing. Like, he has a helper now. And, I work as a nurse, but I have a 9-year-old little boy. He was 3.5 when I got in recovery. He probably never remembers any of that.
I love how your cat wants to be in the interview, by the way. That's hilarious.
She's been in this whole thing. She's been with me since she's like 18 years old.
He's like affirming you, like, yes, girl, share.
Share that shit, girl. Right. Her name is Sexy, by the way, because I was 18 years old when I got her. So she's 19 years old and blind in one eye.
Oh, wow.
So she's been through it all. But yeah, I have a 2. He'll be 3 in March. He's never seen me use. He, it's so crazy to think that, 6 years ago, I was starting my last run. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And it's a daily thing. Some days it's worse than others, but I don't have to obsess about that anymore. I no longer obsess about doing any mind altering substances ever. Like, it's amazing. And when I do have like a bad day, or I feel challenged, or I feel crappy, I can call my sponsor. I've even opened up a little bit to my husband. I didn't do that a lot in early recovery. But I was super anonymous about it. Especially I just paid my fines off too. I had the blower on my car for a long time. Like,
People don't realize how long it affects you.
Oh, the wreckage of your
It's just
past.
and even if you don't get caught, it
Oh, yeah.
affects, you know, you have a lot, the destruction we left in our wake and all the making up we have to do, and
Oh my God.
not worth it.
It's crazy. But like it ended up all working out, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I just paid my fines off like last spring. I finally paid those off. So I got off of probation. And then like I didn't go to I haven't gone to a lot of in-person meetings because of COVID,
Right.
but my sponsor runs like a halfway house, and like I do Zoom meetings on there, and I actually had a sponsee. I no longer have her as a sponsee because she found another person in her home group, and that's okay. But I love her. We're friends. And the fact that like somebody came to me to like, for my experience, strength, and hope was like amazing to me. Like it was like, wow, there is power in spreading this message, you know? And then like I'm telling you, like TikTok recovery,
I know.
it's so good. It's so freeing. Like I said, like I paid all my fines, I paid off probation, you know, I no longer in the PNAP program, which is like the nurses in recovery program. You have to pee. I had to get hair cut out to get like a hair strand test, blood test, all this stuff. You know, they like make sure you can't even, in our contract, it said don't eat poppy seeds, you know, because
Right.
somebody, you know, definitely used that one,
Yeah.
you know,
I
to
mean,
try
you
to get out.
a lot, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, ruin it for all of us. Now I can't have a sweet onion chicken teriyaki. No, that was the first thing I ate when I got off of like the PNAP program.
That's
I know.
funny. I would have had no idea.
Yeah, it has a ton of poppy seeds in it. So I was like, I can't eat that no more.
Oh wow, that's
Like
wild.
we get in recovery, we like to eat. Like I look forward to that.
Oh my gosh. Andrea, thank you so much for, you know, coming on here and just being willing to be vulnerable and share a story and recover out loud and, you know, not be anonymous. I really appreciate it. And so does everybody who's going to see this. You have one heck of a story.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. I think it's awesome what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and tell everybody where they can find you on TikTok.
Oh yeah. So my TikTok name is Andrea Marie Canello. So that's how you find me. And yeah, I'm trying to spread the message over there because I think that there's something to be said about spreading it out loud. Like let's recover out loud, because I think that we're doing a huge disservice by keeping it quiet, you know?
Exactly. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of The Recovery Scene. You all take care of yourselves. And remember, addiction isn't pretty, but recovery is beautiful. See you next time.